Hi, everybody. Welcome back to English class. Today is Tuesday, April 14th. Who remembers what the letter of the week is? We just learned a new one yesterday. It is Q, the letter Q. And the letter Q is always followed by another letter. Who remembers what it is? It's got a partner. They're always together. It's the letter Q. Q, U. And what sound do Q and U make together? They sound like qua, qua, right? I see that coming right out of the top of my head. That is a question mark, right? Question mark starts with Q, Q-U, in fact. What else starts with Q? We have quarter, right? A quarter is a type of money. It's the biggest coin. For money, we have bills, which is the paper, and then we have coins, which are the round metal type of money, right? And in American currency is type of money. In American currency, the quarter, which starts with QU, is the biggest one. It's worth 25 cents. Well, actually, there's a dollar, but they're not so common. All right, what else? We had quick, right? Quick. To do something quick is to do it fast. It starts with QU. How about shh? Quiet, right? Quiet starts with QU. What about the sound that a duck makes? A duck goes quack, 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 right? That starts with QU. And we had another one. It's right back there for the letter Q, right? It was queen. Queen. Let's see if we can spell queen together. Queen starts with so it's Q-U, qui, E, the long E sound, right? But we need, just like in the word see, we need two of them. Queen. N. What sound does N come from? N. Queen. So we have queen. In. Queen. Q-U-E-E-N. Queen. Awesome. Now, let's quickly go over some of our sight words. We don't have a new one today, but we will have a new one tomorrow. Let's go through all the ones that we know. Remember, practice makes perfect, or at least very good. Okay, so last week, let's start with last week's sight word because it's the newest one, is my. And then we have I. Red. Remember, you should be saying these before I do. I'll give you a second to read it before I say it. Is. Here. You. There's an easy one. A. And. Big. Go. Hat. To. Up. And the. Good. Do you realize that we're missing some? We are missing a few. That's because I have them all ready for our sentence of the day. So we're kind of doing this in reverse. We usually do sight words at the end. Let's do our sentence of the day now. So here we go. It says, we see one blue car. Good. Again, we see one blue car. Great. All right. Now, speaking of, who remembers what word this spells that we just spelled out together? This is queen, right? And what letter does it start with? Q. And what always follows a Q? U. So we have queen, right? So the reason that that's such an important word this week is because we are going to be talking about fairy tales this week. Fairy tales. There are tons and tons of great fairy tales. So every day we will read a new one. Some of you may have noticed that there's a character from a fairy tale in the background. It's usually not there. What is a character? A character is a person or an animal in a story, right? So who can tell me what character is behind me that's from a fairy tale? That's right. Let me get her. Cinderella. Cinderella in her beautiful gown. I'm going to put her back. Okay, we'll leave her up there for today. But I do want to talk about characters. So there is something called story elements, right? An element means a part of something. So the elements of a story, what does it take to make up a story? If I said, hey, can you write a story for me? What would you need to include? Well, we need to start with either some people or animals, right? Because what would a story be without any people or animals in it? So the first thing is the characters. So today, if you haven't guessed, we are going to be reading for story time, Cinderella. In Cinderella, there are many characters. So first of all, we have Cinderella. We also have some other characters, stepsisters, her stepmother, her fairy godmother, and the prince. We don't have a queen in this story, but a lot of fairy tales do. So we also need, in addition to the characters in a story, we need something called the setting. Where does it happen? Right? And the setting tells us a lot about a story. Because if I'm talking about a story, let's say that it's very, 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 very cold. And maybe a family goes skiing, right? Or they build a snowman. We know that it has to take place somewhere where it can be cold. It can't take place in Hawaii, right? It can't take place in the desert. No way, because there'd be no snow. The setting is very important. So we're going to also see the setting in Cinderella. Now, I do have a picture of part of the setting, and it is this castle. It also takes place in the stepmother's house. I don't have a picture of that, though. Now, so the setting is, where does it take place? And it's also, when does it take place? Where and when does a story take place? That's the setting. The other thing is the plot. The plot means what happens and in what order, the sequence of events. We've talked about sequence of events before in class. The sequence of events means what happens first, what happens next, then what happens after that, and what happens last, right? So that is the sequence of events or the plot of a story. So today you are going to, now what? Okay, so start over from here. Okay, so once we have the characters in a story, right, the people or animals in a story, the setting of the story, where and when it happens, and the plot of the story, what takes place in the story. And sometimes it's a problem and the solution, right? A lot of times it's like, oh my goodness, there's a big problem that they're trying to solve and there's a solution at the end. All right. So all stories have that, but fairy tales have their own special traits or qualities, right? One of them is that they usually have some kind of magic in them, some kind of magic. A lot of times, animals maybe can talk, right? Things that can't really talk in real life, well, a lot of times they can talk in fairy tales. The good guy always wins. At the end of the story, the good guy always wins. It's just very typical of a fairy tale, and it makes us all happy because I like it at the end of a story when the good guy or the good woman or the good girl or the good boy wins. Okay. All right, so we are going to see all of those elements in our story today, our fairy tale of the day, Cinderella. So it's a few other things to look out for. Now, these aren't really characters, but they're important elements of the story. So we have a pumpkin. Hope the glare is not too bright. A pumpkin, a carriage, a horse, a mouse, a glass slipper, an invitation. Actually, I said an invitation. There are 3 of them on here. So these are invitations with an S at the end, right? That's plural. And a clock. So when you listen to this story, I'll remind you again before we read the story, it's story time, but when you listen to the story, I want you to listen for all of those elements and why they were important in the story, okay? So I will see you at story time and enjoy the book. Bye-bye.